If you live in an American tourist hotspot, you might not have noticed it yet, but tourism to the U.S. is on the decline. Traveler spending here is already down 22.5%. That's from last year, and it may only get worse.
America's tourism industry has just suffered a $100 billion crash, a collapse so massive that it's being described as a global embarrassment. While Spain, France, and Japan are breaking records, travelers are fleeing the United States in disgust. Endless visa delays, humiliating border checks, violent headlines, and Trump's failed tariffs have turned America into the world's least welcoming destination. The shocking truth behind this downfall is worse than you think, and it's only the beginning. The United States is facing a tourism collapse that can no longer be ignored. In 2025, international visitors are expected to spend less than $169 billion, down from $181 billion just a year earlier. That means America has lost $12.5 billion in 1 year alone. Compared to 2019, before the pandemic, the fall is even more brutal, nearly a 22% decline. The world's richest nation, once a magnet for tourists, is now losing the race to countries it used to look down on. Canada, one of America's closest neighbors, has cut air travel by 20% and land crossings by 35%. Germany's arrivals are down by more than 28%, and the United Kingdom has seen a sharp 15% drop. Even South Korea, once a growing market, has pulled back its travelers. There are no small fluctuations. These are major cracks in America's global image. While the U.S. struggles, Spain is preparing to earn over €260 billion from tourism this year, breaking records and showing what true recovery looks like. France and Japan are also climbing past pre-pandemic levels, attracting tourists with open doors and smoother systems. America's tourism industry, valued at $2.6 trillion in 2024 and supporting more than 20 million jobs, is now shrinking fast. This is not only about lost vacations or empty hotels, it's about millions of families losing their paychecks. Restaurants, taxi drivers, retail shops, and entire communities are being squeezed by Washington's failures. Tourists are not choosing America anymore. They are choosing anywhere else. And the numbers prove it. America's decline is real, sharp, and humiliating. One of the biggest reasons for America's tourism crash is the nightmare of visas and border entry. In 2025, in many countries, travelers are waiting more than 400 days just to get a U.S. visa appointment. Families hoping for a holiday or students planning to study are stuck in endless backlogs. The process is stressful, with strict interviews, long paperwork, and very little chance to reschedule if anything goes wrong. These are not small delays. They are driving millions of visitors away. The situation is made worse by policies left behind from the Trump years, like forced social media checks and tough interviews that treat visitors as suspects instead of guests. At the border, travelers report being detained for minor mistakes, deported for paperwork errors, and even humiliated by officers. Stories like these spread quickly online, scaring away even more people. The result? Countries like Germany, Spain, and even Canada have updated their travel advisories, warning their citizens that the U.S. is no longer a safe or welcoming place to visit. Instead of rolling out a red carpet, America rolls out red tape. For tourists who have choices, the decision is simple. Why waste time, money, and dignity on America when other nations welcome them with open arms? The collapse in U.S. tourism is not just hurting numbers on a chart, it is crushing local communities across the country. In small border towns like Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, hotel bookings have dropped by nearly 77% this year, leaving businesses empty and workers without jobs. In Flagstaff, Arizona, a 15% fall in foreign visitors is forcing restaurants and souvenir shops to cut staff. Even America's biggest cities cannot escape. New York City has reduced its tourism forecast by 800,000 fewer international visitors in 2025, which equals almost $4 billion in lost spending. That is not just lost cash for hotels and Broadway shows, It's lost cash for taxi drivers, waiters, retail clerks, and tour guides. Across the nation, more than 1 million jobs are now at risk as fewer travelers spend money. Local governments also depend on tourism taxes to fund schools, public transport, and city services. With fewer tourists, city budgets face painful shortfalls. This means less money for parks, libraries, and community projects. What should be a source of pride, welcoming people from around the world, has turned into a source of stress and fear for American towns. This crisis is now exposing how fragile America's so-called economic engine really is. And for millions of workers, the message is clear. Washington's failures are hitting home hardest in their paychecks. America's tourism collapse is not only about visas and airports, it's also about politics and bad policies. Trump's trade war and tariffs against Europe, China, and Mexico have poisoned America's image abroad. These tariffs did not just raise the price of steel and goods, they also damaged trust between nations. When you make enemies out of trading partners, you also lose their tourists. Flights to the United States have become more expensive because airlines are paying higher costs for fuel and operations, and they pass that cost directly to travelers. European governments have quietly encouraged their citizens to choose destinations inside the EU instead of visiting the US. Business groups have warned that America has become too costly and too unpredictable for international meetings. Analysts say tourism is now collateral damage in Trump's economic battles, with cultural exchanges and vacations caught in the crossfire. Countries that once sent millions of visitors every year are now building their own tourism campaigns, using America's failures to their advantage. In Mexico, ads invite travelers to skip the U.S. and enjoy a friendlier welcome. In China, tour companies now highlight Europe, Japan, and Southeast Asia instead of America. The damage is clear. Politics and arrogance have turned away paying visitors, costing America billions. What was once marketed as the land of opportunity is now seen as a land of barriers, tariffs, and hostility. While America struggles with delays, tariffs, and a broken image, other countries are racing ahead and taking its visitors. Spain is now breaking records, expected to cross €260 billion in tourism revenue in 2025. France has already climbed back above pre-pandemic levels, welcoming millions more travelers than the U.S. Japan has turned itself into a global hotspot by making entry smoother and marketing its culture worldwide. Even Mexico and Turkey are pulling tourists who once chose the United States. The reason is simple. These countries are cheaper, safer, and more welcoming. Meanwhile, headlines about mass shootings, police violence, and humiliating border checks make visitors think twice about stepping onto American soil. For many Europeans, Canada, Japan, or even Southeast Asia now look like better options than New York or Los Angeles. Travel agencies confirm that demand for the U.S. is down, while packages to Europe and Asia are booming. This global shift is not temporary. It's a sign that the United States has lost its place as the world's favorite destination. Tourists are not only spending their money elsewhere, they're shaping a new global travel map where America is no longer at the center. The collapse of tourism is more than just an economic problem, it's a warning about America's failing reputation worldwide. For years, the U.S. sold itself as the land of freedom and opportunity, but in 2025, that image is breaking apart. Long visa delays, humiliating border checks, and harsh tariffs have made the country look unwelcoming and unsafe. Allies who once trusted America are now turning away, and even friendly nations are advertising their citizens to avoid travel there. At the same time, rivals like China, Spain, and France are using America's weakness to strengthen their own global standing. Tourism was once one of the strongest symbols of U.S. soft power, showing the world an image of culture and openness. Now it has become a symbol of arrogance, failure, and decline. Analysts warn that this crisis will not stop at tourism. It will affect trade, diplomacy, and America's ability to lead on the world stage. Every empty hotel room, every canceled flight, and every diverted traveler is a sign that the United States is losing influence. The numbers tell the story, but the bigger truth is even more damaging. America's global reputation is in ruins, and the world has already started moving on without it. America's $100 billion tourism collapse is not just an accident. It's the price of arrogance and failed policies. Subscribe now for more hard-hitting breakdowns and share your thoughts. Would you still travel to the U.S. today?